Hey friends, welcome back to the Metabolic Summit. It's Mike here, and I'm with Mark of Dry Farm Wines, and we've been enjoying some amazing wines all throughout the world here at this event, and just wanted to kind of let you all know a little bit more about what it means to have low sugar, low alcohol wines. And Mark, I'll just give you a little anecdote here to kick off this conversation. Normally, if I have wine before bed, my sleep's off. I'm messed up. People are talking about, wow, we've had wine, but we're not hungover. We don't feel off. So what is it about how you guys source your wines from small European vendors that makes it kind of healthier for the body and less residual side effects?
Yeah, totally. And I'll start just by saying, first of all, thank you for, and all the organizers, Victoria, Angela, Dom, for having us here. We love supporting this community. It's a community we all came from, even before the wine. The whole reason the company even started was because Todd started becoming ketogenic. And as he became more ketogenic and, became deeper into that lifestyle, he realized that the wine he was drinking before, being a 20-year resident of Napa Valley, he just couldn't drink wine the same way. And that kind of led him down the quest to eventually finding what became Dry Farm Wines. So the criteria that we look for, and we travel all around the world to try to source the cleanest, most pure natural wines possible. And it's a very strict kind of checklist of criteria. So they have to be dry farms, so no irrigation, and I can explain why. They have to be organic or biodynamically farmed, so vineyards that nourish the soil rather than deplete from it. No chemicals, no additives can be used during the winemaking process, and then they have to be fully fermented. So then this is what allows it to be sugar and carb-free. So all the carbs in a wine come from the sugar. And when you have a grape that's in a vineyard, it's just full of sugar. But when that grape breaks open, there's all of this yeast that naturally lives in the vineyard. And the yeast starts consuming the sugar, and that's the process of fermentation. And the byproduct becomes alcohol and CO2. And a couple other things. And so if you let a wine fully ferment and you grow it in a way that allows it to, depending on how you grow and how you harvest, start with lower sugar in the beginning and fully ferment, you end with a wine that's sugar-free and low in alcohol. And so we lab test every wine, and it has to be under 1 gram per liter of sugar, which is statistically sugar-free. There's 0.75 grams of juice in a bottle. And then under 12.5% alcohol. And so the product of that is this wine that's very pure, very real, a true product of nature that has nothing added, nothing removed, and is just an amazing beverage to consume. You feel amazing, you feel different. As you said, and as so many people in this community have experienced, you can drink it without the negative effects. And it doesn't affect glucose or ketones in the same way that a wine or any alcohol that's higher in sugar would.
It's amazing. I mean, it's really hard to find at the grocery store, even if you go to Whole Foods or something like that, a wine that's organic and biodynamic. Like, it's really hard if you look at the labels. And so it's awesome. Like, you do the vetting process, because I'll sometimes go to the grocery store like, I'm having people over, I want to get a good wine. And I can spend a half an hour trying to vet wines, and some of the European wines they don't have on the label. Sometimes they'll have a sticker, they'll say biologic, or something like that. But you guys have a membership program that kind of takes that guesswork out. You can select red versus white, right? Can you kind of talk about how?
Yeah, and I mean, it's an important point, because one of the biggest industry or problems in the wine industry, but also the food industry, is the lack of transparency. And the wine industry is even farther behind the food, because wine is the only food product that doesn't have a nutritional and ingredients label, so you don't actually know what's in it.
And hold up. What's up with that? That's a problem.
It's a huge problem, because, if you're trying to follow a sugar-free diet and you go buy a wine and you have no idea how much sugar is actually in it. We've lab tested thousands and thousands of wines at this point, and we see wines that range drastically, even based on how you taste it. So, it may taste dry and still have 30 grams of sugar in it. And so, there's no one else is lab testing it in that way and, publishing what those are. And so, the lack of transparency is a huge issue. And so to vet the practices, to meet the growers, to taste the wines, and to lab test them is super important. And then, when you come to our site, you can choose red, white, or a mix, any frequency, every month, every other month, however frequently you want, and we'll ship it right to you. And because of the way that these wines are grown, they can't be mass-produced. You can't mass-produce wines in this style. So we're working with about, at this point, maybe 600 growers around the world. And, we'll get as much wine as we can, but once that's gone, it's gone. And so it'll be in our warehouse just for a couple weeks, and then that's it. And that's the end of that wine, and then there's new ones coming in. So you're constantly getting new wines from all over the world. So it's really a journey into the world of real natural wine.
Which I think is fun. I mean, a lot of people kind of find a wine they like and they only get that same wine over and over and over again. But I think it's great, like the novelty of it. Like wines, like if you go back in Italy 100 years ago, right, you would have different wines at different times of the year based upon how the conditions were. And that's what makes it kind of fun. It's like you're trying out new food, new recipes. And so there's always like a new varietal or new spin.
And that's real, you know? Yeah, it doesn't, like, every year's vintage is totally different. The climate's different, the soil is different, how the winemaker farms is different, you know? And so, I mean, there are wines, one of my favorite wines ever, that we were able to source. It was beautiful. It was an amazing wine one year, and the next year's vintage didn't meet our criteria. It was too high in alcohol, too high in sugar. And so, every year's vintage is kind of this bottled moment in time.
Yeah. You said something earlier about one bottle can have up to 30 grams of sugar.
Yeah, and that's,
Not your stuff.
No. And, I mean, sweet wines can go even higher. So sweet wines can have up to 300 grams, you know, so but those are more like dessert wines. Yeah, typical bottles can range anywhere from 0 to 30, even higher than that.
It's so crazy because a lot of people decompress at night with wine, and they don't realize that the alcohol and the sugar paired together is affecting their metabolism, blood sugar levels, obesity, all that sort of stuff. But with your wines, like the most a bottle will have is 2 grams per entire bottle, roughly?
No, even way less, so 0.75 grams for the entire bottle. And the sugar is one, obviously, very important piece in the ketogenic part of it, you know, but then also all the additives. There are 76 additives that are legally allowed to be put into wine in the United States. So these don't have any. You know, there's chemicals that are allowed to be sprayed in all the vineyards that get into the wine. You know, none of these are sprayed. There's a lot of other factors that go into, you know, commercial winemaking versus natural winemaking.
I think a lot of people are keyed in on sulfites and sulfates, but that's one of, like you said, 70 additives that can be put in wine. And so, you know, if people offer me a glass of wine at like a work event or something like that and I try it, I can immediately tell it's like loaded with chemicals. Like it has almost a fake flavor that I never really knew about until I started tasting your wines and drinking your wines. So I think it's a lot of people are inadvertently being exposed to even Roundup, glyphosate. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge problem in the United States. And, you know, we have to go find winemakers in different parts of the world where that's way, way less common. And, you know, their farms are far enough away from any others. And that's another reason that dry farming is so important, because often it gets into the water source. And so irrigation is one way that it propagates to other vineyards, even to organic vineyards.
Messed up. So here's what's really cool about this. You can support your body, support your health, but also support the practice of good winemaking, right? Because if it weren't for businesses like you, some of these small farmers might be forced to just sell grapes to the big conglomerates, right? Because I imagine the wine industry is kind of like the food industry where a few players own most of the distribution. Is it sort of like that?
Yeah. So in the U.S. in particular, you know, 3 companies own a little over 52% of all wine sold. And so you don't really know that because they're all labeled differently. They're labeled behind these chateaus. And so it looks like it's, you know, all these different small farms, but it's really all these massive factories in the middle of California. And so, you know, for us, we want to go out and we meet the growers. We want to find these people. You know, we have this guy in Italy, or in France, that our team is visiting right now, actually, Sebastian Arsac. And he was one of those examples of someone who, you know, like we're able, by buying his wine, able to support his family, able to continue this lifestyle. You know, and all these growers care about is protecting the earth, protecting the soil, the craft of making beautiful, pure, natural wines. And it's a real honor to be able to support them, just as it is a real honor to be able to support all the health communities that we're really passionate about, too.
Mark, it's amazing. I really commend what you guys are doing. I love the wine, love the company. Dryfarmwines.com. Any specials, promotions people should know about?
Yeah, you can go just dryfarmwines.com/MHS and get an extra bottle with the first order. And yeah, give it a shot. We have a 100% happiness promise. We know these wines are so good. We're so confident in them that if there's ever one you don't like, we'll just replace or refund it without any questions asked. So no risk. Just I promise you it'll be a life-changing experience. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy. This is amazing. I really hope you guys enjoy this video. Please hit that like button and also share this with a friend that likes wine, because they should be drinking Dry Farm wines instead of the junk at the grocery store. So we'll catch you on a future episode. You rock, buddy. That was awesome.
Thank you.
That was really cool.
Thank you.